So we've got a visit from Rory today, which does mean we're going to test the Pompom in the garden, give it a steam up, check everything's working, ready for the boiler test on Sunday. So let's go. So I might try and use this as a bit of a instructional video to teach people how to do stuff. So we'll start from the beginning. So here is Rory just filling up the boiler with water. Safety valves out as they were out anyway, but that should now be full, and then we can move on to the reinstalling the safety valves and start lighting the fire. So at this stage there are two ways we could go. I sometimes light the first piece of stuff we put in the fire. Rory's put a few bits of soaked charcoal in the engine first, and then he has a couple of bits ready on the shovel which he will light to put into the firebox. We also have an airline blower rigged up here, which is just a bit of pipe with a spout on the end to point up the chimney to draw the fire until we have our own steam. It could be an electric blower, but this particular one's an airline one. So, first fire since the repaint. Just going to crack the valve on the blower. Not too much. A bit more. Need to hear it come out the chimney. A little bit more than that. Keep going until the flames aren't coming out.
That's it.
There we go. There we go. Then we'll put some more charcoal on there for a little while, get a nice bed of charcoal before we start putting coal on top. I will just point out that on this piece of track we've got a clamp on the rail which will stop the engine moving forward, and I will put one on the back as well just in case, but it does slightly roll down this way. So ordinarily at the club this is where I would be ignoring the fire for a little while, let it start to burn and catch through, oil up and get all of that in done, but we're not going to be running today, so we're not going to oil up, so we just need to sit and wait. So start to have steam, blowers come off, so now she's raising steam on her own. What have we got? 30 pounds and a lovely fire in there. So we can start checking things. Where's the whistle? This side. Whistle works. Water gauges work. So just water feeds to go really, and safety valves. So, probably slightly light, but not a problem. holding one down to make sure the other one does lift, which it isn't so far. Right, so we know the safety valves work. If Rory pumps the hand pump, an easy way to test if the hand pump is working is to touch the clack where it goes into the boiler. Pump a bit harder. If you can touch it and it goes cold, then it's pumping. So that is working fine. Now, that'll do. Injectors, not the most visible on this engine. Water first, then steam.
That sounds good.
That's pumping nicely. And you can see the other one from here as well, if I get in the right place. I think it runs a little bit wet and just drips a little bit. Oh, there you go, chirping nicely. So we're confident that will pass the steam test. Although one last thing that we will do on the accumulation test is check the smoke box pipe work. So we've put the engine in mid-gear, plus we've got the blocks, and we will open the front. And if Rory opens the regulator, looks like that union isn't quite tight, but other than that, I think we're good. We'll nip that one up and try again. Well, that was a bit looser than I thought. Just check the other one. Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Right, there's something going from somewhere. I think it's that left-hand one now. Right-hand, left as we look at it. We'll try and nip these up and then we'll go again. So the little steam leak we had at the bottom of the smoke box, I've started to look at that. I disconnected the superheater and tried to just ease it up so that I could release and reattach the pull out, reseal and drop back in the fitting into the top of the cylinder block. But the pipe twisted and the whole superheater came detached. Let's take a look at that. So I have, as you see, cleaned it up. Fortunately, that unscrews from the header, but that should be in there like that. As you can see, if it focuses, as you can see, there was no real penetration onto the stainless tube, except for just beyond it. So we're going to clean it up a bit more, some tenacity flux and re-silver solder it so it can go back together. I will also anneal this piece of copper so that we can mess around with it if need be. Incidentally, the superheater sits about there. If it were me, if it were my engine, I would be extending it so the superheater came back into the firebox. But not my engine. Maybe one day she'll get a new set. So as I say, stainless steel grade, easy flow flux. stuff into a paste and put on. I'm going to start by heating the stainless tube because that's going to take most of the heat. So I really must make sure I press record when I'm doing these things, but here it is freshly soldered. There we go, so I got it hot, solder started to flow, all soldered up, flipped it over to make sure it got around the other side as well. That should be fine. I will give it a pressure test or suction test to make sure it's all good before I put it back in the engine. But there we go. So now I can go and reseat the piece inside the engine. So I've taken it out. As you can see, there's not a lot of shoulder there. That'll be the problem. I'll put some more sealant on the thread, some PTFE tape, and I'll also put some of the Loctite stuff I've got on as well and see if we can get her sealed up. So that's all back together. While I had the petticoat pipe out, it was 4 bolts. There was 6BA with nuts, but the flange on the petticoat pipe I've tapped out to 5BA, and so I can just screw the and opened out the holes in the smoke box and countersunk them bigger, so I can just screw it in and not have to worry about annoying nuts on the inside and trying to get them started. So there we go, front end back together. Now, another problem we had, which you're not actually going to be able to see it because I've already taken it off, was the blower valve. As you can see, it's been removed, but let's go and take a look at what was wrong with it. So that's the back half of the blower valve. And although the blower worked fine, what was wrong was the thread and the gland nut had sheared off. So I'm going to make a new one of them and refit it. Right, so in my mind, to make it so this doesn't happen quite so easily again, what we either need to do is make it a smaller spindle and hole through the middle, or a bigger thread on the outside for a bigger nut for the gland, or make it have a stronger material. Now, I don't really want to start making a new valve spindle, but I could. But what I'd rather do is make it exactly as the original, because that lasted quite a while. It's only a gland anyway, it doesn't take much strength. But make it have a stronger material. So, I found a bit of bronze and I have machined it down to the outside diameter of this. So my first step from here will be, I'm actually going to make it this way around. So I shall drill and tap the centre to get the thread in the middle right. Then I'll machine the outside for the thread on the outside. Then I shall part it to length. Might even drill and tap the bit that's still in the lathe to the size of this thread, so that I can screw the new piece in there and turn the outside and the gland thread at the same time. That's the plan. Now I'm thinking about it, I might also make a new nut and go slightly bigger on the nut, but we'll see. Let's get the back end done first and drill for the thread. And there it is. I've screwed the old gland nut on, which I've now dropped in the tray, but I'll need a pair of pliers or something to unscrew it from there. But we're done. So I'm not overly happy with the spindle. I don't like screwed handles on the end. I'd much prefer going into a square. So what I'm going to do is try and turn the end of this valve stem. Obviously I've got nothing to get hold of, so what I'm going to do is put a bit of copper tube over the outside and see if gripping the chuck on that will allow me to turn it. So we'll give that a go and I'll let you know if it works. So far that seems to have worked. Turned it down, put an ABA thread on the end. I'm just going to file a square further back, and then we need to do something about the hand wheel. I'm probably going to drill it out, put an insert in, which solder it in, and then drill and file the whole square. So I've drilled out this ever so slightly. I haven't cleaned up the front face because I don't really want the solder spreading on the front, but I did give it a little countersink. I've cleaned up the back face and I've made this top hat piece which fits inside. It sticks out the back purely because the parting tool left a bit on the back. I'll sort that out later when I've got more to get hold of. So I'm going to flux it and solder it. That's that. We'll just find something to flip it over with to check it's gone through to the other side. It looks like we'll be all right, and we'll see what happens. So filing it with a square file, a little bit at a time, until it fits on the spindle. Doesn't quite fit yet. We'll keep going until we've got a nice fit. So there we go, finished. All that remains is to refit it and take the gland nut off and repack the gland. But all done. My packing of choice is PTFE tape. My packing of choice is PTFE thread tape, wound into a piece of string and then wrapped around the spindle. Only put it in the lathe to hold it somewhere. Then the nut can go on and be nipped up as much as necessary when she's in steam. That can go back on the engine now. Obviously you can add as much as you need. It's only a blower valve, so you shouldn't need much. So there we go, all fitted. And ready for the track tomorrow. Touch wood. And there it is fitted. Now one of the benefits of having the hand wheel on a square is that you can choose what the off position is. And I like sort of down-ish to be off. But it might be that he chooses to have it somewhere else. But yes, now boiler test ready, and hopefully tomorrow we'll see it running on track.